Hello, my friends. How are you? I hope you're doing so good today. Today we're going to read a story, and the story is called Oscar and the Frog. And the theme that we're going to be talking about this week is things that are changing. And I know we know a lot about things changing, don't we? Things have been changing a lot lately. But we're going to be talking more about how life is changing. Springtime. Spring means new life. It means more flowers, more butterflies, frogs. And so we're going to be talking more about spring and new life and new beginnings. So this story, when you listen, I want you to be thinking about certain things. First, I want you to think about the changes that some of the characters are going through. Then I want you to be thinking about punctuation. Do we remember what punctuation means? I want you to think. Think, think, think. Think some more. Right? Okay, what is punctuation? I know you know what a period is, right? A period is when we pause. When we read, we see that little dot and the period, and we take a breath, and then we start. Remember, because I tell you, if you don't put a period, it's going to go on and on and on and on forever, right? And so we have to have a good pause. So I want you to be listening for those pauses, those punctuation as I read the story. Okay, are we ready? All right, Oscar and the Frog, a book about growing by Jeff Waring. Now remember, the author is what? He writes the words. That's right. And the illustrator, he does what? He writes the pictures. He draws the pictures. That's exactly right. And so since there's one, he does both. Okay. One spring day by the pond, Oscar saw some creatures he had not seen before. Frog hopped up. "They're tadpoles," Frog said. "I was a tadpole before I grew up." Oscar stared at the frog. He didn't look like a tadpole at all. "Oh, don't be silly, Frog," Oscar said, laughing. "It's true," Frog said, and he told Oscar how frogs grow. "At first, I looked like a dot in an egg. The egg was as soft as jelly. I grew in the egg, then hatched out as a wiggly tadpole. I could breathe underwater through gills like a fish. I was hungry for pondweed, and it helped me to grow. Later, my gills disappeared as I grew lungs to breathe air with. I grew back legs, then front legs, and my tail started to shrink. After 3 months, I was a little frog. I kicked my new legs and jumped out of the water to live on the bank." Who here has ever seen a tadpole? A tadpole is a baby frog, isn't it? Now this is like a little tadpole. See, it starts as an egg, and then it hatches through the egg, and it has a little tail, and then legs grow, and arms, and it turns into a frog. "What else hatches out of eggs?" Oscar asked. They looked in the pond. Frog showed Oscar some eggs that had been laid underwater. Many water snails lay their eggs in pouches of jelly on stones or plants. Dragonflies often lay their eggs on plant stem just below the water. Fish lay lots of eggs. The perch winds hers in long threads around plants, twigs, or stones. There's a lot of things that hatch from eggs, isn't it? They looked on the bank, and Frog showed Oscar some eggs that had been laid where it's dry. Many kinds of butterflies lay their eggs on the undersides of leaves. When the caterpillars hatch out of the eggs, they eat the leaves. Many birds lay their eggs in nests high off the ground. Here, the chicks will be safe from animals who might want to eat them when they hatch. Ducks often nest on the ground close to water, so their ducklings will be able to swim quickly away from danger. Do plants hatch out of eggs? Oscar asked. No, said Frog. Most plants sprout from seeds. Each plant makes its own kind of seed. The seeds of apple trees are stored inside their fruit. Poppy plants have tiny seeds. They are light enough to be carried by the wind. Coconuts are the seeds of coconut palm trees. They are huge and can float. So look at the size of those seeds. They're so tiny that they could fly into the air. But a coconut, I don't know if that could float into the air, could it? That's a big seed. Most seeds ripen above the ground, but the seeds of the peanut plant grow in the earth. Did I hatch out of an egg, or did I sprout from a seed? Oscar asked. Neither, said Frog. You were born. You looked a lot like you do now, only much smaller with fur and paws, ears and a tail. You were hungry for milk from your mother. Why was I hungry for milk? Oscar asked. It helped you to grow, said Frog. Milk for you, pondweed for me, leaves for these caterpillars, and bugs for those baby birds. We all need different foods to grow. What did we want when we were little? Do you think we wanted pondweed? No, I don't think so. Did we want bugs? No, I don't think so. What did we want when we were babies? Milk. Milk, just like the kitten, right? We looked a lot like ourselves too. Oscar stretched. I'm so big now, he told Frog. But you're not as big as you will be, said Frog. Are you? Asked Oscar. Yes, Frog answered. I've stopped growing now. I'm as big as I'm going to get. How long does it take to grow up? Oscar asked. It depends, said Frog. This flower will be full grown in a few days. But this young tree won't be tall until you are a very old cat. The baby birds will be as big as their parents next spring. Frog went on, but the tadpoles will take 3 springs or more to be as big as I am. Each living thing takes its own time. Just then Oscar saw that his mother was coming. What about me? He asked Frog. How long will I stay a kitten? You will be a full-grown cat by winter, Frog said, as big as your mother is now. Oscar looked at his mother. She was much bigger than he was. Oh, don't be silly, Frog, he said, laughing. It's true, Frog said. Just wait and see. All right, so we kind of talked about beginnings, right? How did some of those things begin? How does a frog begin? From eggs. That's right. So that was started from an egg. And what about a kitten? How does a kitten start? They start as a baby, right? Because they are mammals, and when they are born, they want milk. And plants, how did they start? What do plants start as? That's right, they start as seeds, and they sprout, and they grow and grow and grow, right? And everything gets bigger, everything needs food and nourishment, just like we all do, all living things. All right, my friends, thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you all